40 political and religious prisoners of Rajai Shah prison have written a letter to Mardani, the head of the Rajai prison, to show their disagreement against the beating up and torturing of Naghmeh Mahmoodi and the frequent delays in the treatment of named prisoners. On Saturday the 1st of June, many taxi drivers had protested in the city of Kamyaran due to the taxi fares being very low. Many of them have gone on a hunger strike, hoping to double the taxi fares from 2,000 riyals to 4,000 riyals. On Wednesday the 29th of May, 4 human rights experts and activists for Iran gathered in the Human Rights Council meeting in Geneva, in Switzerland. While reviewing the process of the Iranian presidential elections, they had announced that the prohibition of women candidates is against the international basic human rights law. Ahmad Shahid, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Iran, has also announced that this process is a fundamental violation of the discriminatory rights to political participation, and any disqualification should be based on the impartial and reasonable criteria. On Monday the 3rd of June 2013, the International Organization of Didaban Human Rights has requested from the Iranian authorities that the approved Islamic panel codes must be banned. In this letter, they had mentioned the Islamic panel codes such as stoning to death. However, this organization has announced a new punishment for the violation of basic human rights. On Monday the 3rd of June, Arash Sadeghi, who was a staff member of Mir Hossein Mousavi in the 2009 elections, was beaten in prison. Since then, he has started a hunger strike to protest against this unfair situation. Mrs. Gohar Eshri, mother of Sattar Beheshti, who was an Iranian blogger who passed away in the early November 2012, several days after being arrested by the Iranian security forces, has written a formal letter to Ali Akbar Nater Nouri, who is responsible for the office work of Ayatollah Khamenei, the Islamic leader of Iran. In this letter, she has requested to use all the facilities and capacities of the office to organize a fair court to deal with her son's murder case, because it has been 7 months since Sattar Beheshti was killed in the Fatah police station, and there has not been any court to investigate this case. The International Organization to Preserve Human Rights in Iran have protested in front of the Embassy of the Islamic Republic of Iran, as well as in many different parts of the city of Berlin, to celebrate the 50th birthday of Nasrin Sotoudeh, a human rights activist and lawyer of many political prisoners in Iran. Nasrin Sotoudeh is currently imprisoned in Evin prison.
According to reports received on Sunday the 2nd of June, Sayyid Ziauddin Reza Tawfiqi, the head of Mr. Hashemi Rafsanjani's campaign group and the chief of the Mujahideen Islamic Revolution Committee in Khogiluye and Boya Ahmed County, and 3 Central Committee members of this campaign group were arrested. Last week, 2 male prisoners, one of them an Afghanistan citizen called Mohammed and the other called Ali Reza, were executed in the city of Karaj in Rajai prison. On Sunday the 2nd of June, 2 prisoners accused of possession of drugs were hanged in Khurramabad prison. Reza Agha Khani, Nasrullah Lashni, Ali Raza Akbar Zadeh and Hossein Bahire were arrested in Tehran. These gentlemen, who were either political or cultural activists interested in national religious movements or followed Dr. Shariati's ideology, were arrested at their workplace and their homes were searched intensively by security forces. So far, there has not been any indication of the reason for the arrest. According to the news received, on Monday the 3rd of June, following Mohammad Reza Aref's visit to Tehran Bazaar, 3 of his companions started shouting slogans in support of Khatami and Aref, and consequently were arrested. According to reports, on Tuesday the 4th of June, a number of participants in the funeral of Ayatollah Jalaluddin Taheri in Esfahan were arrested. Naim Salavati, son of Fazlollah Salavati, a political activist in Esfahan, was one of them. On 31st of May, Mahmoud Beheshti Langrudi, a cultural activist and former spokesman of the Trade Union of the Iranian Teachers, who was earlier released on bail for 150 million toman, had his 5 years prison sentence confirmed by Abul Qasim Salavati, the judge of Branch 15 of the Revolutionary Court. On Monday 3rd of June, the Ministry of Intelligence of Iran announced the execution of 2 spies. According to the authorities, they were the head of spies in Iran, working for the CIA and Mossad. The ministry has not provided much detail or any names about these 2 people, but has indicated that they confessed to their crimes.
Amir Islami, an imprisoned dervish prisoner, was refused from being sent to medical centers outside of prison by Evin Prison security guards, despite his severe stomach pains, digestive system disorders, and being told by the prison's infirmary for his emergency transport to medical centers outside of prison. Rahman Wafai and Hamid Islami, two Baha'i citizens from the city of Shiraz, both of whom were imprisoned in Shiraz since Saturday the 14th of July 2012, have been sentenced to a total of 6 years by the Revolutionary Court presided by Judge Kheshti. During the past week, Saleh Moradi, a human rights activist who was temporarily released from prison on Saturday the 2nd of June, was sentenced to 1 year suspended imprisonment and 1 year banishment. Prior to this, Mr. Moradi had spent 20 months imprisonment in Adilabad prison of Shiraz. On Wednesday the 29th of May, Mohammad Reza Farid, Saeed Safi and Hamid Reza Qadiri, members of a private church in Isfahan, were arrested and taken to an unknown location by the security officers. Furthermore, on Wednesday the 29th of May, Muhammad Ali Sehqan, Muhammad Ali Sadeghi, Mohsen Ismaili, and Sayyid Ibrahim Bahrami, 4 Ghanabadi dervishes, were transferred from Shiraz to an isolated region of the Adilabad prison. Currently, each of these prisoners are in separate cells in the basement of Adilabad prison and are being prevented from visitations and any contact from outside. On Wednesday the 29th of April, Amanullah Mustaqim was transferred to Section 4, Hall number 12 of Rajai Shah prison in Karaj, after being arrested on Monday the 20th of May because of visiting the Evin prison. The security forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran have started to install dozens of CCTV cameras in the streets and in public places in the city of Kermanshah in an attempt to gain more control over citizens. On Saturday the 1st of June, more than 60 Ghanabadi dervishes gathered in front of Adilabad prison of Shiraz in order to protest against the unspecified state of 4 imprisoned Ghanabadi dervishes. On Saturday morning the 1st of June, Kasran Nuri was surrounded and transferred by the security forces from the green section of this prison to an unknown location. So far, there is no information about his situation and whereabouts.
On Sunday the 1st of June, Mohsen Barzegah, the former Cultural Secretary of the Islamic Student Association of Noshirvani Industrial University and current student of the university in the city of Babol, who was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment by the Revolutionary Court of Babol, charged with acting against national security and insulting the supreme leader of Iran, has been recalled to Babol prison to serve his sentence. On Thursday 30th of May, the Security Police and the Committee for Students' Welfare Fund signed an agreement granting the Security Police more authority to control and supervise the student residence. Afshin Keshkari, one of the student activists in the Shiraz Industrial University, has been transferred to Adil-Abad prison of Shiraz for 6 months of imprisonment. Abul Fazl Hassani, the head of the Police of Development of Science, Research and Technology, stated that so far 15 public universities have been given licenses to be unisex and 4 others in principle will be receiving their licenses. Authorities of the Shiraz Medical Science University, on the eve of the presidential election, attempted to install CCTV in front of the university dormitory.
Following the publication of an interview with the manager of Sarat News website, the Committee for Determining Instances of Criminal Web Content have requested Mehr News server provider to delete this news. On Monday the 3rd of June, a blogger was arrested in Urmia, West Azerbaijan province, with charges of spreading corruption on the internet.
A month before Iran's presidential elections, one mother wants to know why her son was killed for speaking out.
یک مادری داغ دیده هستم، رنج کشیده هستم، پرستارم بود، همه کسم بود، نون آورم بود، بیگناه کشتنش.
Gohar's son, Sattar Beheshti, was a labourer from a small city just south of Tehran. In October 2011, he started writing a personal blog on human rights in Iran. A year later, he was dead. The police took Sattar in for questioning on October the 30th, 2012. The following week, a prison official rang his family and told them, buy a grave and collect his body. How Sattar died is still a mystery. Sattar is not the only Iranian journalist to have died in custody, and many have experienced mock executions, forced confessions, and long periods of solitary confinement. Some imprisoned journalists have resorted to hunger strikes to protest their harsh conditions and abusive treatment. The Iranian government has called independent journalists spies and informers for foreign powers. The authorities have blocked websites and jammed foreign broadcasters. Strict laws and guidelines have been used to curb any voice of dissent. Families of journalists, even those working outside Iran, have been threatened, arrested, and imprisoned. At least 68 Iranian journalists fled into exile between 2007 and 2012 because of harassment and the threat of imprisonment. CPJ's annual census has documented a dramatic rise in the number of imprisoned Iranian journalists over recent years. In the early 2000s, the annual total of imprisoned journalists was in single figures. Once Ahmadinejad became president in 2005, the numbers leapt, doubling after the disputed 2009 elections. But these shocking figures don't tell the full story. Huge numbers of columnists, bloggers, and editors have been charged with crimes that seem outlandish, absurd, and Orwellian. Of the 40 currently imprisoned journalists, 18 face charges of spreading propaganda against the state, 8 for acting against national security, 3 for insulting the supreme leader, 1 for insulting the president, 1 for espionage in connection with Israel, and 1 for waging war against God. At least 8 of the jailed journalists have not even been informed of the charges against them. Around 2/3 of imprisoned Iranian journalists are being held in Evin prison, famous for rape, torture, and executions. Following recent complaints, members of the Iranian parliament toured the site and concluded that the conditions were so good, they nicknamed it Hotel Evin. Sattar Beheshti spent at least one night in Evin before his death. In 2013, the Iranian government began a new wave of detentions. The intelligence minister announced that the arrests were to prevent the emergence of sedition prior to the elections. It's an ominous sign for journalists who are now asking how they can safely cover the presidential campaign. But for Sattar's mother, the only question that matters is why did speaking out end in her son's death?
هیچ مسئولی تا حال هیچ کس از وقت ستار من کشته شده پلو من نیومدن. میخوام یک دادگاهی علنی باشه و مردمی و عادلانه. آیا میخوام ببینم بچه‌های من گناهشون چیه؟ آیا نه فقط ستار من، هزارون ستارا.
Jahan Bakhsh Mijani, a member of the Islamic Council of Paper Factory in the city of Karun, has called the situations of the redundancy of the workers regrettable and criticised the authorities for their lack of care for these workers, saying that the troubles of the factory since 2001 were not known about by workers, and due to these troubles the workers were gradually made redundant. Since last week, the working condition for the workers of the Iran Khodro factory has become harder and many of the facilities have been closed down. Behroz Agha-Janlu, the Chief of Police of Zanjan County, has indicated that, as a result of police action, they've managed to confiscate 2,846 satellites in the past few days. On Sunday the 2nd of June, Mohtaram Rahmani, a civil activist and the manager of Cheshme Gazvin bookshop, was summoned to the Revolutionary Court. Dr. Mohammed Amini, the head of the Agricultural and Natural Resources Research Center in the Mazandaran County, said every day 40,000 hectares of jungle are partially or completely destroyed. At present, there are more than 3,800 prisoners in the central city prison of Bandar Abbas, out of which 500 are expected to be sentenced to be hanged. So far, the Supreme Court has confirmed the sentences of 300 out of 500 of them.